Welcome to the DAYnamics Show. I'm Mariana, your host and guide, here to remind you that flowing through each one of us is a dynamic energy that is ours to use every single day. That's why we emphasize the day in DAYnamics, because it's just not a one-time choice. It is a daily commitment to your dynamic well-being. On this podcast, we know that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to life. That's why each episode is crafted to help you align with your own energy, ideas, positive attitude, and evolution on your terms. It's all about exploring what life can truly feel like when you choose what genuinely serves you and you live a dynamic life. You're here for a reason, so let's uncover it. Tune in and let's explore what's possible together. Today, our podcast and recording is a mixture of fundamentals and off the cuff. The beginning of the year and halfway through the year, well, we do Q&A, but not just a Q&A, it's the stuff that you guys have either reacted to, contacted us in some way about. It's those core questions that we picked out of many that we felt like would be of real value. That's why it sort of covers the fundamentals of DAYnamics Show and Dynamic Series, and also just off the cuff, because I'm reading who wrote it in, and then I'm going to answer it just off the cuff. But before we start that, I always like to set the tone for our time together, because it's more than just a podcast. We know that what we focus on expands, so let's just take a moment to center ourselves, be fully present, and listen with an open heart and an open mind. To start, just let me ask you this, our audience, our listeners. Do you like the Q&A part? Do you like really getting that understanding? That sort of fun discussion, but it's just with me telling you the questions and answering them for you. I know for myself, I really like a good Q&A that doesn't go on, and any of our recordings, they're always under 30 minutes, because we just feel like that's a good amount of time. And we also love being available to our listeners, our audience, to let them know that we truly appreciate, we truly listen. So not only do respond, we can't respond to everyone. There'll always be some kind of reply from us, but these are going to be answered more in depth. I hope you're all ready, and we'll move on to our first question. Now, our first question comes from Anthony. You are always mentioning about no one's life path is the same. So what does that really mean? Well, if you haven't heard all of our resources, obviously, so thank you for the question first, Anthony. The resources, it talks about you are where you are at any moment. And for those that are open to know, or even open to hear this concept, is that maybe before you came to this physical experience, that you chose some of the things that you wanted to experience and to evolve through. And so we never know what someone's life path is going to be, because we're not them. And sometimes we don't understand it, or we don't understand why things are happening in a certain way. But then later on, we find out, oh, yeah, maybe that's this, or maybe they just came down for a short time. And sometimes maybe they came down for a longer time. Maybe there was some not so good experiences with family, friends, whatever it might be. We just don't know why everybody has chosen to come to this physical experience in this lifetime. But know that if they're part of your life, they're part of your soul family. And the other thing is that season, a reason, or a lifetime. Like sometimes there's people are just in your life for a short amount of time to be part of your path, again, to help you evolve. Now, if you choose that to do the evolution of your soul and of your life while you're here, then that's great. If that is the case, then you'll be grateful for everything, no matter what. If I don't really like that, what do I prefer instead? Or if I do really like that, this has been a blessing. If you look at everything and be grateful and a blessing, then you'll know that you're going to be involved. If it's a challenge, okay, well, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? Like, even if it's a great event or even what we would call a tragic event, it's just like, what is this telling me about my overall life? If we look at things so specific sometimes instead of like overall view of I'm here on a soul's journey, I'm here on a life path. So let me look at it from those bigger eyes, that bigger perspective. And I understand, and you don't need to write into me that there is some really, not so great things that we have to go through sometimes, but it is a challenge. It's not good or bad necessarily, and whatever label we put on it. If you try to stay as neutral as possible, maybe the thing that I look at the most is like, what is my next best decision about this now? If you can remain as neutral as possible, it doesn't mean you don't have emotions, it doesn't have feelings or thoughts or anything like that. It just means if you can try to stay in that neutral part, once you allow yourself to feel whatever you want to feel, get back into that neutral place and go, hey, what is the next best decision right now around this situation? And what is it trying to show me in my soul's journey? Show me, universe. Let me know. And again, the life path that you have for yourself too, it doesn't have meaning until you give it some meaning. What you think might be a mundane life, someone else might think it's exciting. You never know from what perspective that everyone's looking at it, but it doesn't really matter. It matters what you feel about your life path and making the best of every moment and being grateful for every moment. Hopefully that answers it, Anthony. If not, then just again follow up on a contact form. So thank you again very much for that. So question number 2 comes from the handle Dr. Joe Ubzed 7965. And it just says, you added belief dynamics to your series. First of all, I want to say I fully agree because I think beliefs play a big part, especially as a doctor, in not only the physical health of my patients, but also the mental and emotional and spiritual side of it as well. Why did you actually add it? So first of all, thanks again for the question. And there was many reasons why, and if you haven't listened to all the information that we've posted around belief dynamics, then dynamicseries.com, and then go to dynamics and then you'll find beliefs, and that'll give you some links to like the podcast, the vehicle videos, the blogs, all that stuff. We covered it just for half a month because it sort of had to fit into fitting all our dynamics into 1 year, and that beliefs shape our physical experience. And that's one of the reasons, like, it's underrated sometimes, I feel like, about how important it is for, us to pay attention to our beliefs. They impact our overall well-being. Are you either having empowering beliefs or limiting beliefs? Probably both, depending on, what your circumstance is. Beliefs influence everything, thoughts, emotions, and I've always thought that beliefs are just thoughts that we keep thinking, and then they turn into a habit, and then we turn into like, okay, well, let's prove ourselves right, and then find situations to prove ourselves right, because law of attraction, that which is like unto itself is drawn, like attracts like. You believe something, and then, okay, the universe goes, okay, that's what she believes, let's give her some of that. Beliefs are really, I think, really important. There's so many more reasons for that, but just because we have this short amount of time, in our podcast to go over all these questions, then I just feel like look at your beliefs. So thank you very much for that question. And when we did it, I'm sure it'll come up again. Anonymous is our next question. First, a compliment. Love your dynamics. You are doing all the overviews of them. Wealth was my favorite so far. It is for a lot because it's like you don't even realize how much wealth affects so many aspects of your life, and it's so much more than the money part. I thought you may have said or posted somewhere you are doing or going to go into deeper explanations of them. Can you clarify, please? Yes, we certainly can. We wanted to get through the very first portion of all of them so we would have a basis of like a blog or two, and then have a podcast, mostly discussion that we're having with my daughter, Makota, and then a vehicle video or some social media post around that subject matter. I think we're gonna do that until the end of the year, and then that'll cover every dynamic that we have, and then next year we'll look at going into something really deeper and having courses or online workshops or whatever the trend is at that time. There's so much more because a lot of feedback that we get is just we love this but we want to go deeper. So that's why you have probably heard it being mentioned before that the deeper part of it is let's look at this really and let's do some online courses or workbooks or downloadable stuff or meditations or mantras, or whatever it might be to actually enhance what has already been done. And so I look forward to doing that. But first of all, we wanted to get through this year and make sure that we covered everything and live life as well and take vacation and this and that. So, yes, so it is coming and it will be in 2026. So, thanks so much for the question. Our next question that was sent in is from Najeti, and hopefully I've pronounced that properly. So, thank you. If I'm not, apologize. It says, I noticed that you updated your website homepage, then added a dynamic assessment. And so, why did you do that? Well, we're always evolving. We're very dynamic. And first of all, if you don't know what dynamic is, go to the website under dynamics and it has all the definition and the origin of it, all that. And being dynamic does not have to mean that you're really loud and charismatic all the time. And there's a lot of introverts that are very dynamic. We updated and we are always updating our information. You might go there one day and then the next day it will be something different because we have then got that intuitive feedback or just evolution of what we're doing ourselves through courses or this and that or your own inner guidance that you have that would better suit what it stands for. And we're talking about dynamic series, the DAYnamics Show, Kid Dynamics, all of the dynamics that it encompasses. And then we put the dynamic assessment in there because we thought maybe people are dynamic and they've never really seen themselves as that. And maybe by answering, I think there's 7 questions. Yeah. And maybe by answering those questions that they realize that they are and that how they can be dynamic more. Because we have dynamics of a person, which we focus on the most. We wanted to summarize it, we wanted to make it clear, and we wanted to just ensure that people were understanding, like, this is what we stand for. Why should you look at dynamic series? And what is the benefits and the best parts? And then go into the dynamic assessment. And then you can sign up for the newsletter if you would like. And it's only monthly. We don't sell your information. And it's just going to be about a little bit of a deeper understanding of that month of whatever dynamic we're having, and then a contest, and then links to other things that would really enhance a little bit more. If you want to subscribe, then that's great. You know where to go to dynamicseries.com. So thank you for the question from Najet. Next question comes from Susie. She said, I subscribe to your DAYnamics Show podcast, and I notice over the months that you have changed your intro and outro from when you first started. Well, absolutely. Yes. Sometimes people have a jingle, some people have the music. We just have that calm music when we start, and then we just want you to like center into yourself. We want to say a few words, and then we want to set the tone and then get into the podcast itself. Because sometimes it takes a mind just a little bit to sort of unwind from wherever you've been, whatever you've been doing. So we want to take that 2 or 3 minutes to just like slowly bring you into listening to it instead of like blah right away, like just settle yourself in, focus your attention. And so we've changed the wording of the intro and outro as we evolve, as we honor our dynamic self, and that better represents what we feel the dynamic show should be. And it will continue to change, I am sure. That's the thing about us and our audience and our listeners, because we know that we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. And what used to fit before may not fit again. And we're constantly changing too. And I know not everyone likes change, but at the same time, it's just like it's evolving with our own evolution, and our own dynamicness. And absolutely, there's always a version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I mean, like look at the Apple Watch. Look how many versions of that is there, or the phones of different kinds, or it's always improving. So by all means, yes, we did do the intro and outro, and that's the reason why. So thanks again for the question, Susie. The next question is from the handle Josha, and that it says, when you say what serves your highest good or your highest bliss, what do you mean by that? What it means to us and me is like opening to more than my brain and my mind can imagine at that moment. Let's use an example of a car. I want this kind of vehicle. And I always say, or better, and for my highest good and bliss, meaning that I'm open to even better than I can imagine at that moment. And so I use that for everything that I'm putting out as an intention to the universe and what I prefer to the universe. It's like blah, 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 and or. Because again, sometimes my mind just can't comprehend. And if the universe is always providing, everything is possible, everything is unfolding for me, then yeah, I want to have the best and the highest that is going to serve me the best in the long run. I hope that answers your question. Again, any of these questions, if you want further clarification from those that sent them in, then please, by all means, just, you know how to contact us. Thank you so much for that question. And the last one that we have here today is from Mila. Could be Mila or Mila. You talk a lot about co-creation. So what is that about? You're creating your reality on some level, and by your thoughts and by your feelings and by your intentions, and you are the primary creator in that, but you're still interacting and influenced by those around you in your world, by the universe, both good, bad, and different. And again, if we, like I said earlier, can stay as neutral as possible, then that's perfect, because nothing has meaning until you yourself give it meaning. So the co-creation is those that are in your life reflecting back to you what your vibe is. Law of attraction plays a big part about that. Your soul family is co-creating with you. Weather's co-creating with you. Everything that you see is creating with you. Everything that you come in contact is creating because you're in a relationship with everything. So you're constantly co-creating. Who and what do you want to be in the creation of your life? Even when you're with yourself, with your own thoughts, and again, your own feelings and your own intentions, you're still co-creating. You're still making something that you want, putting that forward. Because thoughts in itself are an energy, and so you're constantly co-creating with everything in your life. Too many things to mention, but nonetheless, you are co-creating. And if you want further clarification with that, then let me know. But just think, hey, I'm co-creating with this person, this place, this thing. How do I want to co-create? Who do I want to be? So thank you so much for that question, Mila. Thank you so much. So that covers the most influential questions that were repeated to us in different ways. Just what resonated with you the most in today's episode, and just take a moment to reflect on what question might have been most deeply influencing you, and then share this podcast with a friend. And then you can also look for other podcasts from what might have intrigued you or that you want more information on. And if you don't find it, then write into us and we'll do some kind of blog, podcast, vehicle video, mantra, meditation, a workbook, whatever it might be. So we love your feedback. Visit DAYnamicsShow.info and DynamicSeries.com multimedia podcast to dive into all of our content. And then a quick reminder, all materials shared on this show are copyrighted and are meant for informational purposes only. And so I just want to say again, thank you so much for interacting and being part of our co-creation of this podcast, this DAYnamics Show. Until we meet each other again, thank you for tuning in to this DAYnamics Show, and make it a dynamic day.